Hi everyone, it's Miss Grody. Welcome to week 3 of distance learning. I decided to change the format this week because I don't think the PowerPoint was as easy to view as a video format would be. So I changed it up this week, and I hope you guys can all hear me and everything is a little bit more clear for you. I'll be able to send this out on Remind as well as upload it to Teams. Um, Even though I'm going to sound kind of awkward at times, this is the way that I'm going to do it this week. So welcome to it. These last few weeks that I'm going to be putting out some information and some assignments for you are going to be focused strictly on the Prose prompt to get you guys ready for the AP exam. So those of you that are taking the exam, if you haven't done any of the assignments at all, now's the time to jump in and maybe do a couple of practice essays to get you ready for the actual test, especially since we have not written this kind of an essay since the fall semester. If you did the one on popular mechanics, that was the same type of essay. But if you did not, now's the time to jump in with some actual prompts so we can get you some practice. I am still going to do the weekly poetry because it's still National Poetry Month. And the poem I picked out for you guys this week is actually special to me, and I picked it out just for you guys, and I hope you love it, and I hope you do the reflection this week, if nothing else, just to write down some things and reminisce and feel good about yourselves and your childhood and your teen years and getting ready to move off to the next chapter of your lives. So at the very least, watch. It's a spoken word poem, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So let's go ahead and move on for the stuff that you need to know this week. This is the same slide that I put up last week, so it's just really a reminder. Graduation's postponed, but it's not canceled. As soon as we know of a date, we'll let you know. That's kind of being dictated by the state and the coronavirus right now. So as soon as we have a date, we'll let you guys know, but hopefully it will be before you leave and go away from us. And I'm really hoping that we get to do that just because I'd like to see you guys one more time and get to say goodbye. I miss you. I hate how this ended, and I'd at least like to see you guys off one more time. So hopefully that will help. Community service is excused. I had this question this week. If you still had a few hours left to go or all your hours left to go, you lucked out. So no community service. You'll be able to graduate without those hours. So good for you guys. And the senior celebration survey, I don't know if you've seen them on our website and our social media, but we've been celebrating a few seniors every single day based on the survey that you guys filled out. If you haven't filled it out, go back and find that on Parent Square, on my Remind, on my Teams, in the chat, and my PowerPoint last week. There's a link for you guys to click on where you're going to answer some questions about yourselves and upload a picture. And then we're going to celebrate you on our website and Instagram, Twitter, all of those feeds, Facebook, all of those feeds. So I've seen some of your parents on there, and they're enjoying it, and the community is enjoying it. So if you haven't done that, do that. We need you guys to do that so that we can continue our celebrations. And the other thing on this slide is the optional assignment grade calculation, just so you guys know what I'm doing. If you're just joining us now, if you complete the rest of the assignments for the next couple of weeks, you'll get a one-letter grade bump than what you currently have on Infinite Campus. If you have been with me since the beginning and you complete all the assignments, I'll bump your grade to letter grades. So stick with it. You guys are almost there. Each assignment is going to be scored out of 10 points. I'm keeping track of it in Teams. If you go into Teams, you can click on what your grades are and you can see what I've scored you on each assignment, and you can do your own average so that you know where you stand with the class right now, because I'm not actually going to be entering anything into Infinite Campus, and I'll just be bumping up your grades the last week of May. All right? All right, let's get on to the fun stuff. So the poem I picked out for you guys this week is called Remember How We Forgot by Shane Koizan. You have seen Shane Koizan before. He's the one that wrote the poem about bullying. Um, Most of you, if not all of you, have seen it. It's a beautiful spoken word. It's usually people's favorites. It's called To This Day. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. You will love it. This poem is geared more directly for older students and older postgraduate individuals. And so I picked this one out of especially for you guys because he talks about childhood and he talks about teen years, and I want you guys to think about your own teen years. So we're going to watch this together, and then the reflection at the end of it is to actually remember all of the things that you forgot about, and I want you to try to emulate the same style as Shane Koizan. So here we go.
Remember how we forgot? Remember how no one ever really died in the wars we fought? Because each gunshot came from our fingertips, and we never really kept them loaded just in case. Because each enemy was a friend, and none of it was about oil, religion, or land. It was all just pretend. Remember how we used to bend reality like we were circus strongmen? Like our imaginations were in shape then. Like we were all ninjas trained in the deadly art of did not. Like, I totally got you! Did not. Remember how we forgot? Remember how our parents told us never to look directly into the sun, and how we were their sons, so we never looked directly into the mirror in fear that we would go blind? Remember how we used to find any old reason just to call someone we were crushing on? That we just pawn off our sense of embarrassment, buy a chunk of courage that would last just long enough it would have us asking them about math and stuff. And how stuff was just stuff, like I heard you getting braces. And how braces somehow were and still are kinda hot. Remember how we forgot? Remember how we all caught mono? And our folks would go, ooh, the kissing disease. And our first steps into gangsterhood had us saying, mother please. Even though we'd never really kissed anyone. Even though we never did half the things we said we'd done. We just spun yarns like Rumpelstiltskin spun gold. We told ghost stories, never realizing one day ourselves become ghosts, haunting the hallways of schools, poltergeists breaking all the rules of silence in the library. But we had no chains to rattle, no voice to battle the fact that we had no vocal cords. We had only fingernails on chalkboards, and we'd scream, shout, and yell, trying to tell ourselves what experience can teach us, what no teacher taught. Remember how we forgot? Once upon a time, we were young. Our dreams hung like apples, waiting to be picked and peeled, and hope was something needed to be reeled in, so you'd fill the always empty big fish bin of the one that got away and proudly say that this time, impossible is not an option, because success is so akin to effort and opportunity that can be related. So we took chances, we figure skated on thin ice, believed that each slice of life was served with something sweet on the side, and failure was never nearly as important as the fact that we tried. That in the war against frailty and limitation, we supplied the determination it takes to make ideas and goals the parents of possibility. And we believe ourselves to be members of this family, not just one branch on one tree, but a forest whose roots make up a dynasty. So when I call you sis or bro, it's not lightly. And when I ask you to remember, it's because the future isn't what it used to be. So remember now, pay tribute to every sacrifice laid upon the altar of somehow, for all the times somehow we overcame, somehow we pushed on, somehow we've gone the distance, and in going there we possess the freedom to map the uncharted lands of any and everywhere we are unbound. 6 feet above the underground where we will all one day rest. So until then, test the limits, test the boundaries and borders, as if the headquarters of potential lay just beyond the world's edge. Let the belief that hope belongs to us all be the pledge you take to make the unachievable as inconceivable as the false fact that we never hear. We were here. And our memories are as dear to us as every slow motion moment or held breath. So remember every instant before death, every first kiss, first dance, near miss, last chance. Yes, no, maybe so. Let us go the distance once more. Let us remember all the moments that were and were not. Like the point is something we can get, and what we can get is what we got. Because all we have, the times between the moments we connect each dot, so live and remember. Burn like an ember capable of starting fires. Like each moment inspires the next. Like memories of the context we put ourselves in, so that life becomes the next of kin we need to notify in case of a big bang or extinction level event. Let now be our advent. Let us live like we meant it. Let us burn like we mean it. Because this world doesn't give a shit if we end in a train wreck or a car crash. If our story ends with a dot or a dash, we were dust or ash. Because all we were is all we'll be, and all we are is the in-between of so far, so good. So forget every would, could, or should not. Forget remembering how we forgot. Live like a plot twist exists now and in memory, because we burn bright. Our light leaves scars on the sun. Let no one say we will be undone by time's passing. The memories we are amassing will stand as testament that somehow we bent minds around the concept that we see others within ourselves. That self-knowledge can't be found on bookshelves. So who we are has no bearing on how we appear. Look directly into every mirror. Realize our reflection is the first sentence to a story. And our story starts. We were here. Anna Epperson.
All right, I don't know why that video did not work when I actually came to play it to watch it with you guys. I apologize for that. I'm going to upload it in Teams though, so click on that if you'd like to watch it without it skipping around. But I love this poem. I love the ending especially. That's the part I really wanted you to hear. So if you have to rewatch it, re-listen to it, and then go ahead and write your reflection. I don't know what that big old grunt was at the end of the video. It was not me. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our prose review. So here's the exam information. Wednesday, May 13th at 11 a.m. You guys are going to have 45 minutes to write this essay. Here's what you need to think about before that day. Not on that day, but before that day. You need to decide if you're going to print out the prompt and then annotate it, or if you're going to take notes on a separate piece of paper. Make that decision ahead of time so that you know what you're going to do. If you're taking notes, how are you going to take notes? I would strongly suggest that you print out the graphic organizer that we used for popular mechanics. I'm putting up a blank one that's just generic for any prompt with this week's assignments. I would strongly recommend that you print that out and write on that. If you can't print it out, you can take notes on your computer, or at least copy it on a piece of paper and do it that way, okay? And you also need to decide if you're going to type the essay and upload it, or if you're going to handwrite it and then take pictures of it to upload. Make sure you decide that before the day of the exam. We've been practicing handwriting it, so that might be easier for you, rather than going between two screens and trying to type it. So make sure you know exactly what you're doing before that date. One last thing on that also is I'm not going to be available to help you on that date. That's the other reason you need to have a plan. If you need help, I'm sure the College Board is going to be available to help, but it won't be through me, and I won't even know how to help you. So just make sure you're prepared. The College Board will be sending you probably a video and instructions for that day. Look for it and pay attention to it. So the prose prompt, what does it look like? So here's what it's going to look like. You're going to have your prompt, and then you're going to have some suggestions on what you should do for your essay. So this is a prompt that you guys already wrote about, Johnny Got His Gun. So the prompt states, the following excerpt is from Dalton Trumbo's 1939 novel, Johnny Got His Gun. In this passage, the narrator must speak with his father about a decision he has made. Read the passage carefully, then, in a well written essay, analyze how Trumbo uses literary elements and techniques to portray the complexity of the boy's relationship to his father. In your response, you should do the following: respond to the prompt with a thesis that presents a defensible interpretation. That means you need to answer the question. Answer it in one sentence. Select and use evidence to support your line of reasoning and explain how the evidence supports your line of reasoning, and use appropriate grammar and punctuation in communicating your argument. So the first thing you guys need to think about is actually what information do you learn from the prompt. So if you go back and read the prompt again, this is the information that we learn. We learn that the narrator is a boy or a young man. He needs to speak with his father about a decision he's made, and his relationship with his father is complex. That is implied by the prompt. This should help you think about what you're going to write, or help prepare you to read the actual excerpt that you're going to read. It gives you that background information in order to prepare you. So always read the prompt first, take some notes or underline on the prompt exactly what information it is you're already getting. I'm going to go a little bit fast through this because we've practiced this before. This is just a refresher. On the graphic organizer, there's a box for this. What information do you learn from the prompt? Some of you just summarized what was in the essay in this part, and that's not what it asked. It asked, what do you learn from the prompt? Okay, so after you know what you are doing with the prompt and what you're supposed to be looking for, then you need to read the excerpt. Read it carefully. Look for the details in the essay. I'm sorry, in the excerpt. Okay, so here's the excerpt from Johnny Got His Gun. This is just to refresh your memories. I'm going to read it through very quickly, and then we'll move on to what you should be including in your essays. The campfire was built in front of a tent, and from the tent was under an enormous pine. When you slept inside the tent, it seemed always that it was raining outside because the needles from the pine kept falling. Sitting across from him and staring into the fire was his father. Each summer they came to this place, which was 9,000 feet high and covered with pine trees and dotted with lakes. They fished in the lakes, and when they slept at night, the roar of water from the streams which connected the lakes sounded in their ears all night long. Okay, so in this first paragraph, the narrator is setting up the setting, and he's setting up the tone of the piece. You can always find the tone in the very first paragraph, usually in the very first paragraph. That can change in other paragraphs, but in this case, the setting creates the tone, and the setting is a very serene setting. So we're out in the woods, we have the needles and the pine is falling, and this is a very relaxing setting. Pine trees, lakes, somewhere you go to on for a vacation, or you go to relax. So right away, this tells you that this is not a volatile relationship because the narrator has put us in this nice and serene setting. Okay, next paragraph. They had been coming to this place ever since he was 7. Now he was 15, and Bill Harper was going to come tomorrow. He sat in front of the fire and looked across at his father and wondered just how he was going to tell him. It was a very serious thing. Tomorrow, for the first time in all their trips together, he wanted to go fishing with someone other than his father. On previous trips, the idea had never occurred to him. His father had always preferred his company to that of men, and he had always preferred his father's company to that of the other guys. But now Bill Harper was coming up tomorrow, and he wanted to go fishing with him. He knew it was something that had to happen sometime. Yet he also knew that it was the end of something. It was an ending and a beginning, and he wondered just how he should tell his father about it. All right, so in this paragraph, you can see that the narrator is anxious. He has a little bit of anxiety about talking to his father about going fishing with somebody else. The reason for his anxiety is actually very understandable. He has been coming to this particular place with his father for the last 8 years. This is their tradition that they have created. And so he knows that it's a special thing. He knows that it's a serious thing. And the fact that he's got to tell his father he wants to go fishing with somebody else now, he understands that this might hurt his father. Um, but it is also a very natural thing for him to want to do. He's 15. He's at the age where he's coming into his own identity and he is growing up. So that's why this is the end of something and a beginning of something. It's kind of like leaving his childhood behind and moving on into adulthood. So, and he doesn't want to hurt his father. So that implies that they do have a close relationship and he does not want to ruin that relationship. Okay, next paragraph. So he told him very casually. He said, Bill Harper's coming up tomorrow, and I thought maybe I'd go out with him. He said, Bill Harper doesn't know very much about fishing, and I do, so I think if you don't mind, I'll get up early in the morning and meet Harper, and he and I will go fishing. For a little while, his father didn't say a thing. Then he said, Why, sure, go along, Joe. And then a little later, his father said, Has Bill Harper got a rod? He told his father, No, Bill hasn't a rod. Well, said his father, why don't you take my rod and let Bill use yours? I don't want to go fishing tomorrow anyhow. I'm tired and I think I'll rest all day. So you use my rod and let Bill use yours. All right, so these last couple of paragraphs, something very significant happened here. So the son, he tells him very casually. So he's trying not to make a big deal out of his wanting to go fishing with somebody else. But what he did was he underestimated his father's reactions. So he gets up the courage. He tells his father what he wants to do. And that first sentence in that paragraph afterwards, for a little while his father didn't say a thing. That tells the reader that his father actually had to think about this. He understands that this was hard for his son, and so he doesn't say anything. And then when he does, it's extremely poignant. He not only gives his son permission to go with somebody else, but he actually offers him his most valued possession, which is his own fishing rod. So it's kind of like handing the torch down to his son. By saying that he's tired and he rests all day, we can understand by that interaction he's not really tired. He probably was looking forward to fishing with his son, but he's willing to let his son have that freedom and to grow up and to come into his own. So he even offers him his own fishing rod. Okay, let's read these last two paragraphs. It was as simple as that, and yet he knew it was a great thing. His father's rod was a very valuable one. It was perhaps the only extravagance his father had had in his whole life. It had amber leaders and beautiful silk windings. Each spring his father sent the rod away to a man in Colorado Springs who was an expert on rods. The man in Colorado Springs carefully scraped the varnish off the rod and rewound it and revarnished it, and it came back glistening new each year. There was nothing his father treasured more. He felt a little lump in his throat as he thought that even as he was deserting his father for Bill Harper, his father had volunteered the rod. They went to sleep that night in the bed which lay against a floor of pine needles. They had scooped the needles out to make a little hollow place for their hips. He lay awake quiet a while, thinking about tomorrow and his father who slept beside him. Then he fell asleep. At 6 o'clock, Bill Harper whispered to him through the tent flap. He got up and gave Bill his rod and took his father's for himself, and they went off without awakening his father. All right. These last two paragraphs, this last one especially, is just so beautiful. So he includes the details in the second to the last paragraph that shows just how special this fishing rod was to his father. And the details show what he used to do with his rod by carefully sending it out to a man in Colorado Springs, having him revarnish it, how it would come back new each year. All these details are meant to present to the reader how special this possession was to the father, and he was willing to give that to his son, like I said in the other paragraphs. And the son understands that. He understands what his father is doing for him. And then at the very end, this last paragraph, when he goes up to leave, that last sentence especially, he got up, gave Bill his rod, and then took his father's rod for himself. He's taking a part of his father with him, not only just on this fishing trip with Bill Harper, but he will also be carrying a part of his father for the rest of his life. So this was a very metaphoric moment in this piece, and this was a very special, poignant moment in this piece. So that last line just reveals how much the father means to the son. So in this piece, basically what we can get out of it is the setting sets up the tone, the serene tone, and the details in the piece in each of these paragraphs show how close of a relationship that the narrator has with his father. That should go into your thesis statement. That's what you are going to be trying to prove in your essay. So let's take a look at what should go in the introduction and the thesis statement. So very quickly, just look over the slide real quick. Your introduction should start off very general until it narrows down to a specific thesis. It does not have to be very long, but you should try to have 3 to 5 sentences in your introduction. Some of you are only doing the thesis statement, but try to do more than that. Your introduction is the first impression that the reader has of you, and this is your place to impress them right off of the bat. So try to write at least 3 to 5 sentences, okay? The purpose of the introduction is to present the topic to your readers and then answer the prompt in your thesis statement. You can start off by just generally explaining the theme or the human condition of the excerpt of which you are writing. In this case, this excerpt was about a father-son relationship, so you could talk off generally talking about father-son relationships, how important they are, how we value them in our society, and then you should narrow that down until you get to a specific answer in your thesis, which is what is the narrator's relationship with his father. So your thesis statement should not just be restating the prompt. It needs to be a defensible claim that answers the prompt and which you will prove in the body paragraphs of your essay. Okay? If the title and author of the piece is provided in the prompt, then include that at some point in your introduction. If it's not included, which I don't think it will be on exam day this time, then just refer to the piece as the excerpt and refer to the author as the author. Okay? All right, so here's a sample introduction for you. In this excerpt from Dalton Trumbo's novel, Johnny Got His Gun, Trumbo portrays a complex relationship between a young man and his father. The scene takes place in the woods at a campsite, a place where the young man and his father have bonded for many years. Through a simple exchange between the two men, Trumbo reveals a deep relationship between father and son, and through precise detail and serene imagery illustrates the importance of a fishing tradition and how the two men value each other's company. Trumbo also divulges to the reader the son's careful contemplation of the simultaneous ending and beginning, proving that their relationship is one of mutual love and respect, as well as thoughtfulness. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the actual thesis statement. This is a two-part thesis statement. So he sets it up, the writer of this introduction sets it up starting right here. Trumbo, oh, there we go. I'm just gonna, I'm really bad at this. Okay, I'm probably gonna stop in a second, but it starts right there. Trumbo reveals a deep relationship. So we're making a claim about the father and son relationship through precise detail and serene imagery. The second part of this thesis statement is the last one. This is the one where the writer really answers the prompt, the question in the prompt, and that's these last 3 lines right here. So I want to just like highlight the whole thing real quick. I'm not used to this computer highlighter, as you can tell, but there we go. All right, so Trumbo divulges to the reader the son's careful contemplation, ending and beginning, proving their relationship is one of mutual love and respect, as well as thoughtfulness. So make sure you make a claim. Don't just say they have a good relationship. Good doesn't mean anything. You have to make sure that you are more detailed than that. And that's what this writer did right here in the introduction. Okay, so it's not a very complex introduction. There's a bit of summary up there at the top, and then we get narrowed it down all the way to that final thesis statement. That's all you guys need to do. Make a good impression for your readers. Oh, I guess I have to turn off my highlighter here. Let's do that. Move on. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the body paragraph. This is where you need to prove your thesis statement. Use quotes often. Okay, so your body paragraphs need to have a topic sentence. A topic sentence is kind of like a mini thesis statement. It's a sub-thesis statement. It is still a claim that you are going to have to prove in the body paragraph. So don't just write a sentence that is a summary. Write something that you can prove. If you write just a summary, then your whole entire paragraph is going to turn into a summary and your essay score is going to be very low. So make sure you have a sub-thesis statement, a mini thesis that is a claim that you can prove through the rest of your paragraph. You need to have evidence, quotes taken from the excerpt that prove your claim, and then you need to have reasoning. Reasoning explains how the evidence supports the claim, what it adds to the piece, and why it's important. So why did the author include those details that you're quoting in your body paragraph? You need to be able to explain that. So for every quote that you use, you should have at least 1 to 2 sentences of analysis of that quote and why it is important. So here's a sample body paragraph for you. The following conversation between father and son further strengthens their mutual respect. So you can see that that is a claim. The conversation is going to show mutual respect. The rest of the paragraph should all address that claim. In a smooth exchange without quotation marks and similar punctuation, Trumbo shows how simply the father agreed to his son's request. The kindness here is understated through the simple syntax and straightforwardness. However, the father's next action amplifies their thoughtful and loving relationship to the point that it is almost overwhelmingly poignant. In lending his son the only extravagance his father had ever had in his whole life, the father commits an unspoken act of love. The details Trumbo includes emphasize the importance of this act. Trumbo precisely includes that the father sends the fishing rod away for maintenance every spring, increasing its personal value. The father gives a little piece of himself to his son, and his son gratefully accepts it. Okay, so this is just a sample of a body paragraph. Notice that we notice the quote and then the analysis after the quote. The other thing I want you guys to notice here is that the writer weaved the quote into his or her own writing. Don't ever have a quote stand by itself. Some of you are still doing that. You always need to lead into the quote and incorporate it as part of your own sentence. So practice that on the practice essay for this week. But we started with the topic sentence. We have evidence, even if it's not a direct quote. The writer here still talks about how there are no quotation marks and that there's no, it's just very simple punctuation and what that means. That is still a part of the evidence in this piece. So make sure you include lots of evidence in your paragraph and that you have a reasoning. This paragraph flows very nicely and includes all 3 of what goes into a body paragraph. This actual sample essay had 3 body paragraphs and then the intro and the conclusion. So it was 5 paragraphs altogether. I just am giving you guys 1 to show you how nicely it's set up. All right, and then finally, how do we end this essay? So your conclusion should be a reverse of your introduction. You should start off specific and then go to more general and give a final feel to your entire essay. So you can restate the thesis, but don't copy the thesis exactly. Change the wording, add maybe a little bit from your topic sentences to it. You don't want to sound repetitive, but you do want to reinforce your main solid points that you had in your essay. Your conclusion should also borrow your main points from the introduction and the body paragraphs just to bring the essay to a satisfactory conclusion. So here's your sample. Even though the passage is relatively short and only a small portion of Johnny Got His Gun, the reader can deduce volumes about the relationship between the young man and his father. Through precise detail, revealing point of view and perspective, and understated kindness contrasted by a poignant action, Trumbo characterizes the relationship as one of deep love and respect. This is a very nice ending to this essay. If you do not have time to write an essay, that's fine. Just try to write one final sentence that will give your essay that feel of being concluded. But if you have time, write that conclusion. As a reader of the AP essays, it's not necessary, but it's just so nice to get that conclusion out of the students. So, and it adds a little bit of sophistication to the entire essay. So, try to include that if you have the time. All right, so that was our little mini review. I hope that you guys got a little bit out of it and seeing those examples. So what do you do now? So now you guys need to go on to Teams to see this week's assignments. Do the poetry reflection. I'll have the video up there so you guys can see that again. You have a new excerpt there. There's an excerpt from Jamaica Kincaid's novel, Lucy. I want you guys to complete the graphic organizer for this excerpt and then set a timer for 45 minutes and then write your best literary analysis essay on this excerpt. So time yourselves. Don't take more than 45 minutes if you can. Do that. And then if you want a little bit of extra review, go onto YouTube, find the Advanced Placement channel where you'll find videos on all AP subjects, including Lit. That's meant for you to review for your upcoming exams. I'm going to have more, little bit shorter videos starting next week, probably just one or two more, just to go over some fine-tuning things, but you can always come back to this one to see the examples. Okay? All right, I hope this was helpful. I enjoyed doing it, and I will talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions, then just chat with me on Teams. Thanks.